Hey everyone, sorry for the delay of this video, but this little adorable leopard gecko came into my life, so I had to put that ahead of everything. Now, let's get into my ranking of all the American horror stories. You ready for this, Juice? Hello to all my American Horror Story historians. My name is EJ Marino, and this is a new year, and we have a new video. I'm going to be jumping into, oh my goodness, I haven't done this in a while. I'm going to be ranking every season of American Horror Story. I've been wanting to re-rank American Horror Story for a while, and I spent some of this little break watching these episodes, these seasons, trying to get re-familiar, trying to change some things up, and oh boy, my ranking is much different. I did one previously, which you can find up here, I believe. Yeah, I liked ranking it, but now with Double Feature, things have changed. Now with me rewatching it, things have definitely changed. So let's get into my ranking. Number 10, Roanoke. Kicking off this list in the bottom spot is Roanoke. There isn't much to say about this season. I have tried to get through this multiple times. I just can't seem to connect to it. There is elements that I do find to be interesting. I think the cast is doing a great job. Lady Gaga is a fun witch character. Kathy Bates eats it up in multiple rows. So I like the idea of Roanoke. I just feel the execution, that split story. We'll talk about split stories in a different one, but the way they did it here with the more traditional style and then they went to that weird reality show, it was just disconnected for me. I wasn't allowed to be fully invested into it. Also, the reality show angle felt so dated, especially at the time that this was made. Yeah, reality TV's still big. It's still around. I get it. It just wasn't exactly what I wanted from American Horror Story. Now, if you want to make like The Real Housewives of Roanoke, that would have been a season I would have watched.
Tell me, young man, have you ever heard the term gay for pay?
But for the most part, I just find Roanoke to be a bit lackluster. There is, again, elements that do work. There is some fun, crazy gore. There is some fun sequences, fun little segments. But overall, as a full-on cohesive piece, I don't think Roanoke is that strong. Now, do you guys like it? Is there a secret Roanoke fan out there that you're like, oh my goodness, what are you doing putting this at the bottom of the list? Or am I in line with most of the Horror Story fan base and thinking that this one is just pretty meh? Number 9, Cult. Now we're heading to Cult, which is a season that feels like it's aged so well in some ways, and then it's aged poorly. I never was into the season since its first, initial drop. I wasn't into Ryan Murphy lecturing me on politics. I wasn't into this so close to that election that felt so draining, that felt so exhausted. Now that we're in a different political cycle, where you at, Murphy? Why aren't you talking about this? Huh? No, we don't have any feelings to say about any of the craziness now. Anyways, yeah, I just felt that this wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. While it is a very American side of American Horror Story, there isn't just enough for me to enjoy. I like some of the acting performances. I think Evan Peters and Sarah Paulson are doing very good work here. Some of their best work ever, especially that Evan Peters gets to play multiple crazy characters. I also think his, fun, weird, gross guy that he plays here is a very interesting, a very real villain. I haven't seen a character quite like him depicted yet, so I thought that was strong, but overall, I look at Cult and I go, this isn't a great season. It's not as bad as I initially thought. I just think this is so weak compared to somehow of the other stronger, some of the more entertaining, some of the more divisive seasons than this. Number 8, Double Feature. Ooh, we have a debut on my list. Since my first ranking, I haven't been able to talk about Double Feature, so let's talk about it now. It places 8. It isn't the worst season I've ever seen. I definitely don't like it. I definitely have a lot of issues with it, but that's more of that recency bias where I'm just like, I just dealt with it. I'm just feeling like I was just physically attacked by it, so I don't want to think about it. But in the grand scheme of things, I do think that first chapter, Red Tide, is very strong. The ending is very bad, but it starts off so strong. There's so much potential. The alien story on part 2 of that, definitely not my favorite thing. Death Valley is a bit weaker, sorry, a lot weaker. but at the same time, there is still potential there. That's what I think is the worst part of this, is I could place this higher, but I feel the wasted potential. I could place it lower, but there is still potential. There's still things here that I liked way more than Roanoke and Colt. I just feel like this one had so many wasted, missed opportunities, and that's the hardest thing. Now, like I said, Red Tide was really fun. The rise of Macaulay Culkin in the American Horror Story universe. Sarah Paulson playing with what seems like one of her last characters. We liked all of that. We thought that was really fun. I actually liked some of the stuff in Death Valley. I thought the black and white aesthetic, I thought that was fun. I thought the millennial characters or the Gen Z characters were okay. It's just the political stuff. It's just the weird finale for Red Tide that really dragged this one down. Number 7, 1984. Probably the biggest change from my original video to now is the placement of 1984. Look, I still like this season. I definitely am a fan of 80s slashers. Look, I have a shrine to Jason Voorhees behind me. I'm going to be a bit biased to it, but my placement of it so high definitely felt like recency bias at that time. I see the idea here. I see what works. I just think it doesn't have a grandiose, over-the-top vibe, especially sandwiched in between Apocalypse and Double Feature. I have issues with Double Feature, but I still think it has more importance than 84.
Ugh, you guys are fucking boring.
I am so torn here because I really like the slasher elements. I really like that it has a lot to offer. I just don't know if I would rewatch this one and have the same fulfilling vibe as I have with other seasons. I have issues with things like Freak Show and Asylum, which plays higher than this, but I still find them a bit more engaging, at least a bit more important to the legacy of American Horror Story. As much as I had fun with 1984, I don't think anyone's clamoring for more of this. I don't think anyone's just like, oh my god, I wonder what the characters are doing in here. No, I was going to try to think of a character's name. Brooke? Is that a white girl name? Yeah, I'm sure Brooke. No one's caring what she's doing. So that's the problem here. I want to like it. It just feels so small scale compared to the other bigger seasons. Number 6. Freak Show. Look, I may not be the biggest fan of Freak Show. I have never really personally connected to the circus kind of element here. I like that it's set in Florida as a Floridian. Yay, but I just wasn't the biggest fan of this. Though going through my recent rewatches of stuff, looking at this as its kind of in the legacy, going through all these seasons, looking at 84 to Double Feature to some of the older ones, I think Freak Show definitely has a lot of good in it. It has some amazing acting, some amazing characters. I mean, Dandy and Elsa Mars, some of my favorite ever. And then you have like the twins. I like them. I think Sarah Paulson does both roles very well. Look, this one has a lot to offer that I don't think I gave the respect to previously. I like Twisty, I like Dandy, I like a lot that's here. I just don't know if the overall story is my favorite. By the time we start getting witchy and weird, by the time we start like doing the weird Pepper backstory, which is a great episode, it just doesn't feel as connected to the rest of the season. Then you get the weird guy in the face, and then the Elsa Mars ending. I just go, okay, so yeah, I definitely don't want to place this one any higher, but I definitely think it needed to be up higher than what I originally placed it, because it is good, it is well acted, it has a lot to offer, just not my personal favorite. Number 5, Asylum. Oh, Asylum, what a messy little witch bitch this is, but it's good. Like, look, I don't love Asylum. This kind of has a similar aesthetic for me as Freak Show, which I definitely feel like I appreciate, I respect more than I personally enjoy. Though, I'm looking at Asylum in like Sister Jude, Lana Winters, like Sister Mary Eunice, like for real. Oh my god, Kit. Oh my god, if I had to deal with Alma and Kit, y'all talking about them all of Double Feature for the Death Valley segment with the aliens, yeah, I definitely realize this is a big, important season with so many memorable characters, so many good moments as well. There's some great cinematography, some great acting. I just feel the story is probably one of the messiest. We got like Nazis, we got aliens, we got Anne Frank, we got the devil, we got some religious stuff, we got like everything. We got the serial killer. Oh my god, I always forget bloody faces in this season. That's what I'm talking about. This season is just way too overloaded with so much BS, and it kind of weighs it down. This would place way higher for me. I just don't think this is as smooth as other seasons could be. Again, there are some seasons that I do, like I personally like a bit more that could be even as messy as this. I just don't think it's as cohesive, as streamlined as it could be. I would love to see Asylum redone. Like if I could remake a season of AHS, it would probably be Asylum because there's a lot to offer here. It just got lost in all the madness. We don't need the aliens, especially because it tried to connect it to double feature, or people tried to. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I just want this to be a fun religious horror season, and there's just way too much involved for it to rank any higher. Number 4, Murder House. Oh, Murder House, the one that began it all, the one that we all like reminisce on so fondly. When we had the Return to Murder House episode, we all were very enthused by it. I very much like this season. It's a bit more streamlined. It's a bit less hectic and crazy as the other seasons, which helps it rank a bit higher. The acting is so good on this. As much as I get annoyed by Connie Britton and Dermot McDermott and Tysa and Evan Peters, as much as those characters are frustrating written-wise, I find them to be characters. I understand their motivations. I got what they were trying to do. It's an easier season to follow, and I do enjoy it. It's also the one that kicked off everything. There is so much here that it needs to happen. Murder House is so important to the legacy of all of where we're at. We would not be at this video talking about spin-offs of AHS without Murder House, especially because they try to spend so much time in Murder House, which again shows you the importance. They spent so much time of American Horror Stories trying to recapture what was done in this first awesome season. That's why it ranks so high. It's a good season. I like the acting. I got to be introduced to Jessica Lange. I was not fortunate enough to see her earlier career, things like King Kong, stuff in the 90s, and like I now fall in love with her. I love her older work. I love what she has to do, and I thank this season for it. I just really like Murder House. It's easy to watch. It's fun to watch. It's just a good time. If you ever want to rewatch American Horror Story but don't feel like you need to have the full craziness of other seasons, I always suggest Murder House. It's always a good time. Number 3, Apocalypse. American Horror Story Apocalypse is the Avengers Endgame of American Horror Story. This felt like a big finale. It felt like this is what we were building up to. If there could ever be a series finale in my head, it's Apocalypse. I think this was the accumulation of everything. We got references to so many other seasons. There was so much to do. We got the introduction of Michael Langdon, who is one of the best characters. Cody Fern eats this role up, but I also love seeing the witches from Coven return. I also like the little homages to Hotel. There's some Murder House here too. Yeah, we have the return of Jessica Lange in this one.
I'm Constance Langdon, and this is my fucking house.
Billy Porter got to show up in like Horror Story finally. Seriously, Apocalypse has a lot to enjoy. I often see people not liking this one. I often see this one ranked pretty low for people, and I can't fathom why. I think it is a bit messy, a bit crazy. Time travel's involved. I understand some of the negative towards it, but overall, this is such a good season that if y'all are seriously not liking it, tell me why below, because I think Apocalypse has the accumulation, but it still works on its own, but it still has so much fun. It's gory, it's weird, there is just so much. I like witches, I like the dark, ooky, spooky Satan magic stuff. I like all of that, and that's what helps this one rank so high for me. I know Apocalypse is not for everyone, but when I think of American Horror Story, this to me is the accumulation. This is what we were building towards. This is Endgame. Sure, Infinity War might be a better movie than Endgame. I still think Endgame is strong, and that's how I feel about Apocalypse. Number 2, Hotel. Well, last time Hotel ranked at my number 1 spot, and it's number 2 now. Does that mean I like it any less? No, I love this season. This is one of my personal favorite seasons. If I'm gonna go quickly rewatch a season of American Horror Story, it's usually Hotel. Why? Because it's mostly a contained story. Yeah, there's the Queenie cameo. Yeah, overall, I get it's not as overall, at least it's not as detached as other seasons, but there's also a more streamlined, a more kind of focused story. The serial killers, that's kind of the biggest thing. We have a bit of the vampire stuff, but we mostly focus on the detective stuff, which leads us to going into the hotel and investigating. We have the Countess drama, which, oh my goodness, Lady Gaga is so good in this season? Yeah, there is a lot to enjoy. I think it is one of the queerest seasons of American Horror Story. For a show written by a queer man, I expect this show to get campier and gayer more often, and Hotel gave me everything I wanted. It is one of the more flashy, one of the more great to look at seasons. I think the cinematography is strong. I think the acting is strong. I think overall this is one of the stronger seasons. I see the fan base often not like Hotel, and I can never figure out why. It seems to be everything we normally like. We like the campy, over-the-top vibes. We like the weirdness. We like the horror. We like the fun. We like it all, and that is in Hotel. Do I love every moment of this? No, I get a percentage of the hate. I definitely don't agree with all of it because, like I said, this is one of the best premieres. I actually like the finale. I love the character of Liz Taylor. Those things alone put it pretty high. But now thinking about it, there is still one season that reigns supreme. Number 1. Coven. And of course, in the top spot is Coven. Oh my goodness, I feel bad that I did not give this season the respect it deserved the first one by giving it the top spot. The first time I ranked this, I still love Coven, but I always went more to Hotel. Now looking at this, trying to be a bit more objective and looking at this, yeah, this is one of the best seasons. It has a lot of wackiness going on, but it doesn't stray off into aliens or Nazi stuff or any like that. It's like, here's witches, here's witch hunters, here's a little bit of voodoo versus traditional witchcraft. Let's go. Those are easy things to follow. That's what makes this so good. And also, this has the trifecta of the 3 baddest bitches I know on Horror Story 4. Angela Bassett, Kathy Bates, Sarah Paulson, and Jessica Lange. All 4 of those women eat their roles up here. It is so good. But then you have Madison Montgomery, one of my favorite characters of all time. Emma Roberts plays her to perfection. I also really like Queenie. I think, like, Jamie Brewster does really good too. I think Taissa is a much better character here than she is in Murder House. There is just a lot to enjoy. Do I love the witch hunter subplot? No, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Like, it doesn't really add or take away anything for me. It's just there. Look, this is a strong season. It's memorable. It's the iconic one. We keep referencing it. We keep wanting the witches to come back for a reason. Hell, all of Apocalypse is based on Coven because it's that strong. I think this season is so good, so delicious, and exactly why we watch American Horror Story. We always go back and want us to recapture the glory that was like season 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we'll never get there again. But when I look at this one, I go, damn, Coven was so good and still to this day is so damn entertaining. Alright everyone, that is my re-ranking of American Horror Story. I'm sure this is going to change as I rewatch stuff. I'm sure this will change when another season comes out. Hell, we could have things that take out these 2 top spots. I've been waiting for that to happen. I thought double feature was going to be, but sadly that was not the case. But overall, I had a good time re-ranking this, talking about American Horror Story with you guys. Again, I'm so excited to be back talking to my AHS historians. What else do you guys want to see from American Horror Story? Should I go back and watch some of these older seasons? Maybe do a season at a time, not trying to do episode by episode. Let me know. I want some suggestions from you all of what you want to see based on American Horror Story on this channel. Make sure you guys comment down below. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I talk about American Horror Story, queer things, horror films, RuPaul's Drag Race, everything. I talk about a bunch of fun, campy stuff on this channel, so make sure you guys join me and give me a thumbs up if you did enjoy. Alright everyone, let's talk about American Horror Story down below.